As usual, as our planning, that is in every month on the last Thursday, we'll be organizing a technical meeting. That's the schedule which we have given. So this Thursday also, Professor Radhakrishnan sir agreed to give a lecture, and he's a very senior, very active member with the IEEE. And even though we have given maximum publicity, because of the too much webinars, we are getting very less participations. Anyway, we will try to improve much also. With this, I welcome all members to this meeting. I hope we can enjoy this talk. I request Mr. Suhail to give an introduction about Radhakrishnan. Over to Suhail.
Good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I'm extremely happy and privileged to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Dr. M.K. Radhakrishnan, an amazing and versatile personality. A semiconductor physicist by educational qualifications, Dr. Radhakrishnan is an outstanding researcher in the semiconductor devices area for more than 45 years. He is also an eminent academician and technical consultant. As an academic, he is engaged in teaching and research, curriculum development, faculty training, academic programs development and implementation. He is closely involved in micro and nano electronics industry for over 40 years in areas such as semiconductor devices, process, packaging, yield, reliability, and failure analysis. He is the founder director, NanoRel LLP, Technical Consultant, Singapore. His previous assignments include visiting professor, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, director and principal consultant, Philips Electronics, Singapore and Netherlands, chairman of Technical Council, Institute of Microelectronics, Singapore, adjunct professor, National University of Singapore, UN expert and senior consultant, International Telecom Union, Geneva. This is a summary of some of his assignments. Actually, he has held positions much more than what I have mentioned here. In the IEEE, he is an elected member of the Board of Governors of IEEE Electron Devices Society. He's a distinguished lecturer of IEEE Electron Devices Society, and he's the editor of a number of transactions and journals, not only of IEEE, but of other professional organizations as well. So he's the editor of Journal of Electron Devices, JEDS, editorial member of a number of publications. In the consultancy area, in submicron and nano devices for fabless semiconductors, specific training and consultancy in IC design team, and so on. He has more than 64 publications in leading journals, and also he has toured all over the world and given distinguished lectures on several countries. More than 120 distinguished lecture talks in 22 countries. That's the exact figures in last 25 years. He's a life senior member of IEEE, a fellow of IET, and many other organizations. He's an ideal candidate for IEEE fellow. We hope that he will also cross this hurdle, and I think the section and IEEE support he will get for overcoming some of the procedures to this his journey, professional end of the journey, I can say. And he's actually studied in Cochin University, Kerala University, and also his MSc is from, I believe, from Gujarat, Baroda or somewhere. So he's going to talk to us on a topic of not much familiarity for all of us, but it will be quite interesting, and we look forward to his talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Shall I share the content? Thank you very much for. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Am I
we can
audible?
hear you.
Okay.
You're
Yes, sir.
audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. Now go to presentation.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for inviting me for this talk. I'm really honored to be in this August group and to share some of my experiences and views. In fact, the topic looks a little bit as you may see, and it may be confusing. So I will just introduce the topic in a slightly different way. Today, we, the humanity, are at a juncture, and no one exactly knows how to cross this without affecting the nature. So already we did many irreversible damages to our nature, environment, and even our own brain. In fact, all those are the resultant of so-called technological advancement related to some noble births which inadvertently paved through the difficult path which we are all now undergoing. I'll show you some of these slides. You can see this particular slide. Can you all guess? I don't know how the screen you are having. Could you see my face and the slide, or the
We can see, sir, but it's written smaller. We can see.
Okay, you can see the slide. So just to look at the slide for about 15 seconds and try to understand whatever you feel. In fact, I like to always do the presentations face to face with which we can interact. I always do interaction, but now being a virtual, you have any suggestion, you can raise the hand, or even anyone can give a nod or give some comments or post a comment, etc., etc. Okay. So I will go to the next slide. Probably after seeing this slide for about 10-15 seconds or slightly more, you would have some imagination of what it is and what it is not. And I'll go to the next and see. This is the outline of my presentation in total. So we'll talk on the electronics, and then it goes to the veracity in the device progression, then the technology impacts in society and humanity. So here I will start with some patents, some case studies, some invention to industry, concept, room at the bottom, then some numbers, 50 trillion, 0.0001, etc. So come to that what it is, and then we will progress. I hope you can understand, you know this. Yes, it is Thomas Edison in 1878 with his famous patent, which is patented in 1880, of the electric lamp. This is the electric lamp Thomas Edison actually successfully demonstrated in 1878-79 time. Now, do anyone recognize this person? If not, okay, let me try to minimize this.
Marconi?
No. This is the patent. I will come to Marconi. It's good that you mentioned Marconi. it is J.C. Bose. J.C. Bose, the detector disturbances. In fact, entire world, the first patent of a solid-state diode is to J.C. Bose. In 1901, he filed the patent, and the patent was issued on 1904, which is the US patent 755,840. That is, I mentioned that patent. And it is on the diode, solid-state diode. This material, this is the material called lead sulfide mineral, which is known as the galena material, which is used for the radio wave detector. And this particular junction, which has got a point contact, is the first solid state diode. And in fact, we use all the solid state devices from last 120 years, and we never knew about this. And that is interesting. And that interesting story has got another type. Bose demonstrated his wireless millimeter wave, that is microwave experiments at the Royal Institution in London in January 1897. This predates the wireless experiments at Salisbury Plain by the Marconi in May 1897. Actually, Marconi did it only 1897, but the Nobel Prize for the radio went to Marconi. That is interesting. Bose has got some other things also. You know, it is the electronics evolution, a forgotten history. Bose pioneering the works on the quasi-optic millimeter wave research, which includes the millimeter wave spark transmitter, coherent detector, wire gate polarizer, diffraction grating, dielectric lens prism, etc., horn antenna, etc. For these studies of reflection, absorption, etc., and the application of the wireless control, all these pioneering activities, the Bose held, and he is the father of the radio science. In fact, in 1997, after 100 years of the Bose presentation in the Royal Institution, London, IEEE recognized J.C. Bose as the father of radio science. And in fact, IEEE also mentioned it to the Nobel Committee that he now considered for the Nobel Prize, because the Marconi was considered for that prize. He is the father of the radio science. Now, let us proceed. So I put the first slide on the J.C. Bose, first solid state diode. We are talking from 1900 to 2021. I will come step by step here, and how the evolution happened, and further what happened, etc., etc. Now, this great gentleman, John Ambrose Fleming, invented the vacuum diode in 1904. His British patent is another forgotten guy. And in fact, Lady Forrest, who invented the vacuum triode in 1906, with this patent, is now considered as the vacuum diode, vacuum tube man. So, vacuum triode by Lady Forrest. Now, let us go further. You know, this United States patent, look, this is source, drain, and gauge. Any basic science student knows this one as the MOS device. And this MOS patent is filed in March 28, 1928 by this gentleman called Lilienfeld. So the patent filed on March 28 by Lilienfeld. The material used is copper sulfide and aluminum oxide as the oxide, and the copper sulfide of semi material. And this is 93 years of the MOSFET. So the first MOSFET patent is now 93 years old in 1928. That is the next stage. So we put the transistor concept, the MOS concept, in 1928. Now comes the next one, this one, which I showed earlier. So now can you guess what this is? Look at the date, December, sorry. Are you seeing the entire stuff or any block? Sorry.
We are seeing the entire thing.
And is there any title on the top? In my laptop, it is something showing there. No.
It's not title. It's
Okay.
only
So
paragraph.
it's all
photos.
clear. Is it all clear? Okay.
Yeah.
That is 1947, December 24. What is it? It is this device that is the first transistor, as we call the germanium transistor, by these three gentlemen, Brattain, Bardeen, and Shockley. Interestingly, this is the birth certificate of our era. I call this as the birth certificate. This is the note which was appeared in 1977 when I was doing my PhD work. I saw this and I took a photocopy of that one. And I consider this is I saw this in the Intel headquarters in Santa Clara and many other places. They have kept this particular written note by, if you look at it, it is signed by Pearson, and they have put body, Stokely, Fletcher, Brown, etc., and they are explaining the way the transistor works as an oscillator. Okay, so this is the birth certificate of our era, and these three gentlemen, Brattain, Bardeen, and Shockley, received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1956. In fact, this has got another story. If you hear when we study all the theory of the transistor and everything, these three gentlemen, physicist Bardeen and material scientist Brattain and physicist chemistry, material scientist, sorry, Shockley and Brattain, they were doing the experiment, and Shockley went out for a nap, and that is the time when they found this particular oscillation, and they immediately called Shockley, and Shockley was so upset that for a time. So he was out of mood for many months, and further he thought that he should develop the theory, and he developed. Okay, so this is the first transistor, bipolar first transistor concept. Now we came up to 1947. Now, next one. All those materials you can see are not silicon. It is all germanium, copper sulfide, the first two extra. Then in Texas Instruments in 1954, these two gentlemen, Gordon Teal and Morgan Sparks, made the first grown silicon junction transistor. Actually, that first transistor was is the transistor 2N697. That is the first transistor, which is the type of one which later in 1957 made in Fairchild Semiconductors, and this is the first silicon device. Is Isaki. Isaki-san in 1957 found the tunneling phenomena in semiconductor, for which he received a Nobel Prize in 1973. In fact, all the previous people are no more except Isaki-san now. Isaki-san is there. Isaki, IEEE Electron Device Society last year decided to have the best journal paper every year award for the IEEE JEDS paper award to the name of his Isaki award. Anyone has got any clue on this device? probably, because this is where I would like to have a face-to-face interaction. Then I can ask, and talk. Okay, this is the first integrated circuit, and this great gentleman, Jack Kilby. Jack Kilby invented the first integrated circuit in 1958, and he made this device when he didn't have a job, etc. In fact, I was fortunate enough to work in some projects with him before he got Nobel Prize. It was in late 1990s when I was with the Institute of Microelectronics, Singapore. He was the advisor to the institute, and we have some of the projects which we used to do. He was advisor, and I had to was fortunate enough to hear the story of the first institute from Jack Kilby, from his own words. So he invented this when he didn't have any job in the Texas Instruments, and that's why he tried to middle up with this one and the first integrated circuit. So that is the first integrated circuit, Jack Kilby, 1958. Now, the next is 1959, the first planar integrated circuit by Robert Noyce. So this is the first IC on it with the chip wiring. And later, these Noyce and Groove started the industry. And the first industry, which integrated circuit industry they started, is Fairchild Semiconductors. In fact, Fairchild was a photo company, camera company, which was started by Fairchild, Sherman Fairchild, way back in 1956, 57. And later, they started this three gentlemen started the semiconductor division, where the first transistor, that is a 2N697, was manufactured by the company, and later they started the company Intel. So that is why the Intel came after Fairchild and Gordon Moore and all this noise and all. And except Moore, everybody is no more. All the two people, Crew and Robert Noyce left us first, and recently 2000. And that is the silicon technology planar IC story. Now comes the interesting part. So this is the first experimental MOSFET in Bell Labs by Dow Kahang and Mohammed Attala, which they made with the first, this is a picture of the first MOSFET with the silicon source, drain, and this is the channel length, which was 20 micron at that time. You remember that the concept of the MOSFET was in 1928, but the actual MOSFET could be manufactured only in 1960. The problem was the exceptionally good interface. If this is the cross section, silicon, insulator silicon dioxide, and the metal aluminum. So we need an exceptionally good interface between the silicon and the silicon oxide. With the 20 micron technology, probably few nanometer defect at this site may not be a problem, but still they could not make it for 32 years. That is why the 1960 they could make the device. So this is the 32 years of the delay. And you can see silicon MOSFET in 1960. And if you look, it took 32 years from the concept to the reality. Now comes the next stage. This is a present day IC cross section. I just wanted to show some cross-sectional picture of the device to make familiarize with all. This we used to do. This is from Matek, which is a Taiwan company. It's my partner company, where we do the physical analysis. We have made it specifically for students, and this device has got 8 level of metal only, and this is M8, M7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that metal, and this is the passivation. And you see the B are the metallizations. The gap you see here is the interlayer dielectric, which is already etched away. And if you see here, you can see small domes, which is the transistor. I'll expand it. So this particular thing, if you expand, this is one transistor. This is another transistor, two transistors. It is called cobalt silicide process means when we have got the transistor, as we know, there is a area that here, which is either source or drain, which needs to be, this is silicon, so it's not fully conducting. It is only semi-conducting. So which needs to be a high conductor. High conducting, we put any cobalt silicide or tantalum silicide or something like that. So a thin layer to make it conducting. So that is why it is called a cobalt silicide process. And this transistor, this is the first via interconnect. That means this is the first interconnect which goes from the transistor up. So that first interconnect is used by tungsten. Tungsten is a material which has got a very high melting point, about 3,300 degrees centigrade, but is having a thermal conductivity which is very much compatible to that of the silicon and is a good electrical conductor. So being a good electrical conductor and having a melting point much higher than double silicon. Silicon has melting point is 14-15 degrees centigrade. So this is the material which is used for the metal, and this particular tungsten is being used as the first via contact from the very beginning of the integrated circuit till now with all the advanced technology. I come to the advanced technology now in the later slides. Now I will expand this transistor again. See this one. This is a 65 nanometer transistor where the gap, you can see this is the, here thin layer is the silicon oxide. This is the height. This is the gate. This is the polysilicon gate material. This L-shaped one is called the spacer, and this is the insulator material. And this particular area is the substrate. But I put the dimensions here purposefully because to understand that 65 nanometer, whatever diameter has got how much size totally. Now, this is the transistor, that is the one which is here, and that is the one which is here, and all other things are the connectors, which is interconnects which going up. Now let us go further. And I talked about the interconnect. So if this is the transistor and this is a tungsten, you need to have step by step interconnects. So these multi-layer interconnects of the copper which again is exclusively for the demonstration purpose. The interlayer dielectrics are etched away, and this what we see here as beams are the copper metal layers. You can see the metal 1, metal 2, metal 3, like that, everything. This is the metal 3, metal 2, and the bottom is metal 1. You can see in each case there is this process of by which this is made is a CVD. That is the chemical vapor deposition, in which you get the entire via is not filled properly. So this will come as a this hole, and there are some defect formations, etc., which I'm not explaining here much because of the time and the interest is different. Okay, this is the case, how the metallization. Now we have got metallizations multi-layer up to, I showed you the chemical, and we have got multi-level of metallization. So these are all the VLSI devices. So from 1960, the integrated circuit to maybe up to 1995, 1995 or the middle of the 1990s, our VLSI technology devices using the CMOS technology has progressed with the device, with the metallization, and with small transistors of different types and different types of transistor depending upon who makes it. It's Intel or TSMC or it's made by Samsung or AMD, whoever it is. So that makes. And if you combine these transistors, you get 6 transistors forming into an SRAM. This is the smallest SRAM, a static RAM memory chip. So we have developed all this technology at this time. Now, let me further go ahead. And if you go further, okay. So please remind me about the time at about 7:15, sir, because I'll be just continuing. So this is the transistor which we studied, source, drain, and the gate, and the gate oxide, period oxide, etc. It's a full floating body eliminated, fully depleted device. And the present day device which we use in our mobile phones, in our laptops, is exactly this device. Mostly the mobile phone devices are this one. This is called FinFET. In 1998, TSMC and UC Berkeley developed this device. I'll explain what is this FinFET. It is slightly different from what we earlier saw. It's a fin. Gate is like this. It is totally covering the gate like this. And source and drain is connected like this through the fin. The fin is the one which you see here, right? Okay. Okay. So this red one is the inversion layer, and there is a gate oxide there like this. So if you look at the transmission electron microscope cross section of the FinFET, this is the one. So this is the fin which we see here, this part of the fin, and the surrounding here is oxide gate dielectric. And if you look at here, you can see each dot you see is an each silicon atom. So this is the high resolution transmission electron microscopic picture where we are seeing each silicon atom, surrounding it is the oxide, and surrounding it is the further the gate, etc. Let us move. So if you look at the FinFET came in 1998 in that we have got all the FinFETs is the workhorse or the same, the principle is the same, the CMOS technology with the source, drain, and the gate, same technology moves, only the dimensional structure will. But there are some more interesting part which comes in. So if you look at the gate stack, this is the gate stack which I showed earlier, gate oxide, spacer, gate, etc. This is the SOI, silicon on insulator device, where we have got the insulators or in between the insulator, and this is the tri-gate or the FinFET device. With all this, it's an interesting fact that we are going down. And in 1959, the great physicist Richard Feynman asked, why cannot we write the entire 24 volume of Encyclopedia Britannica on the head of the pin? Because there is plenty of room at the bottom. We are reducing the dimensions, so there are so much space there. Yes, Intel took it as a challenge, and Intel back in about 2009, 2010, showed that 10 million transistors fit in 1 millimeter square. 1 millimeter square is the tip of a ballpoint pen, and it can accommodate about 0.1 micron is this dimension, about one SRAM cell with 6 transistors, and each transistor is having this size. Then this is 10 nanometer, so this is about 32 nanometer transistors, which can be accommodated in with 10 million transistors in the tip of the FET. So 10 million transistors within 1 millimeter square. Roughly, this is Intel showed that at that time. We come back to the FinFET and anything? Hello? Okay. So FinFET, and if you look at the latest device further, after that, 2016, etc. This is the strained channel. So strained channel means silicon atom at the base, at the substrate, has got a specific spacing. Atomic spacing is about 4 angstroms. So if we introduce germanium in between, germanium atoms will make a space and strain the silicon structure so that the spacing will be increased. If we increase the spacing, the electron mobility in that particular space will increase. So this is a silicon N channel N FET with the 50 nanometer gate length. And this is another type with omega FET. Omega FET means that we are surrounding the gate with an omega shape so that it is a 12 nanometer FET of the peak. And here is a 7 nanometer FinFET with a strain relaxed buffer at the substrate, and the fin is strained silicon for the NFET and for the PFET. Strained fin is a strained silicon germanium with a strained relaxed buffer. So these are TM images, and this was AFET, and this is a joint venture by the IBM, Global Foundries, and Samsung, which was released in 2016. So if you look at the further device, we have got a strain channel FETs, we have got a omega type FETs, we have got a strain released, relaxed channel buffer FETs, and we have got then coming to the integration, just like the metallization which I showed here. We have the 3D levels of integration. So the present day technology, if you look at 2020, is we have the better workforce is FinFET with all these modifications going with the 3D integration. Now, let us move further. Say, let us look back. In 1970, we had 10 micron device, which went up to 1.2 micron device, and this is where we call the micrometer device. Then 0.8 to 130 nanometer device, which is submicron device. So 97, we had 90 nanometer device, 98. In 2020, we have 5 nanometer device. So that is where the progression happens. So if you look at, compare that with the microprocessor case, you can see it like this, just a microprocessor. Intel 4004, which was introduced in 1971, it is exactly about 50 years back now, has a 10 micrometer fab process with 300 transistors in it. You can see Pentium, Core 2 Duo, i7, i9 with 7 billion number of transistors with a 14 nanometer, and which was introduced in 2017. Then NVIDIA A100 with the 54 billion transistors, 7 nanometer process, 2020. And recently, this company, Cerebras, brought a transistor last year with 1.2 trillion transistors, a microprocessor. We're using the same, and recently, last July, the same company introduced the 7 nanometer process transistor with a 2.6 trillion, which was introduced in 2020, early 2021. There was an article on this also recently. This is the Cerebras latest transistor, and you can see in the last 50 years, microprocessor progression, transistor number 10 to the power 12 times from year 2003.6 trillion. And the dimensional reduction 10 to the power minus 4, 10 micron to nanometer. And entire this happened in the 50 years from maybe 1970, late 70s, 71 to 2021. That is the progress which we have. Now, that is the picture which came on the wafer with the WC 70 nanometer 2.66 trillion transistors. Now, with this, let us move further. I was talking about the first session, electronics evolution, with the patents, invention to industry, and 50 trillion and 0001, and this process goes on. Now let us look at what are the truth in it in the device progression and the challenges. Here comes the present day semiconductor silicon status. Look here, this is the 9 nanometer scale from 1 angstrom to 1 meter. This is a silicon atom size. This is the 9 nanometer size. And these are your sizes. If you look at the current research on the devices in the industry and academia, we are somewhere here. If you look at the bio and nano applications, we are somewhere. And if you look at this is the 90 nanometer technology where nanometer device started, we are reducing the dimension like this. I started my work in the devices with 5 micron device. That time, the device minimum dimension was 5 micron. And now I work with 7 nanometer, 14 nanometer for my device analysis type of scenario device. If you look at the silicon dimension size, we started with a 2-inch silicon wafer. That means the diameter is 2 inch. When we had a 3-inch silicon wafer and 4-inch silicon wafer, we were very happy. So we have a 12-inch silicon wafer, and that goes to 18-inch silicon wafer diameter, and it is difficult to hold in the wafer fab. So the robots are holding the wafer in the fab. I will come to that also later. Now, what are the issues? If you look at the power consumption, that is the major issue. Here, 2021, let us look at this. Green is the memory static power. And this is the logic static power. That means this part. What is the static power and what is? I will explain with the mobile phone. When the mobile phone is in the idle mode, it takes some power. That is a static power. And interestingly, if you look at it, the memory dynamic power is this one, which is slightly less than the static power, whereas the logic dynamic power is also this one, which is slightly higher. But mostly half of the power which we use is for the static application. That's when we have got the devices with which is the present day devices, we have to charge with the battery has to be charged every day, etc. Because of this, static power consumption is very, very high. If you look at the delay, earlier we thought transistor delay, it is high. Now the interconnect delay is high. I am not going in detail, but I will say one more point which is important is the as we scale down the device, is the lower the drain the voltage AC switching power. That means this ID off state current, this off state current in the NMOS device is increasing as we scale down. That means off state current is increasing is also causing the problem of the current power consumption more. So what we need is a steep turn on the NMOS. Now, this is the gate length and the gate field. This is the gate field case with the gate length. As the gate length reduces, the gate field increases, the silicon field increases in this format. And if you look at with the NBTA reduction with the equivalent oxide thickness, it goes in this stage, but it sharply comes down with a lower equivalent oxide thickness. Our rates have got some more modification. I'm not discussing more because of the, it goes a little bit more in deep. And here I will explain a case, gate stack case with the leakage current. See, we have got the gate oxide here, and there is a leakage current. This leakage current, if you use polysilicon gate with silicon oxynitride, goes and the oxide form and oxide come back. If you use nickel silicide or tantalum nitride type material, the percolation path leakage, the oxide will store over here. Same is the case with this type of gate. That means with the polysilicon gate oxide, silicon oxide will combined with this is good. Whereas for the fusy and tantalum nitride gate, the electro functions as a reservoir of the oxygen. That means it is the degradation is much more. So as the dimension shrinks, it's no different of a trap. So one is the black trap is the stress-induced traps, process-induced traps which are the white, and interface traps. Interface traps become more predominant when the dimension shrinks here. So our interface is becoming more important. Remember, I mentioned about the 1960, the first MOSFET. The interface was the important thing. So interface is coming. These are all our group's research papers from research papers. This is from one of my in 2010, and this is IRPS in 2010. So if you look at the whole thing, the interaction between the channel carriers and the interfaces makes the problem much. Interaction becomes stronger as the D becomes smaller. With the decrease in the thickness of oxide, it is same in the case of the normal transistor, SOI transistor, as well as in film. You can see three-dimensional D. Here two dimensions. So if you look at the whole scenario, we see that we saw that Lilienfeld's first patent on the MOSFET to realize that by Kahn and Atala, the main problem was the issue with the source and the drain and the interface gauge, and the main problem was the exceptionally good interface. What is that interface? This is one of 2002. Here is a 22 angstrom gauge oxide. Here it was 20 micron gauge oxide, channel length. This is the thickness 22 angstrom. Where here I have an arrow where one atom is missing. If one atom is missing in of silicon is missing in 22 angstroms, since one atom is 3 angstroms, 3 point something. So it is about 15% of the oxide is missing, which is a big problem as we go there. So we need an exceptionally good interface. If you look at the material used, when in 1980s with silicon, we were using only these materials, the light blue color. In 1990s, we started using titanium, tantalum, cobalt, copper, bromine, etc. In 2000s and beyond, from the periodic table, we are using almost all the ones, the yellow ones. So that means we are also using the blue. So almost everything we are using. So that means the interfaces are more prominent. The studies are more complex, and the research is more important in this area. Reliability challenges in the 80s and 90s, it was the electromigration, dielectric breakdown, ESD protection, etc. And approaches was based in 1990 on the Fab, Six Sigma process and SPC, and in the new material challenges using high-K gate electrics, oxide, dielectrics, for the interlayer, then the material interactions and new structures, and in 2010 onwards, interfaces and analysis challenges, micro devices, sub-micron, sub-100 nanometer, and nano devices. So as technology improves, our challenges also vary and the studies are. Now, this is what I wanted to show only on the devices, which is made before to this audience, but I will come back to the technology impacts in the society and extended research. Look here, this in 2015, 50 years of the Moore's law. From 1980 to 2015,
Hello.
the device progression is in the Moore's format.
ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു വെബിനാറിലാണ്, ഞാൻ അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് അങ്ങോട്ട് വിളിക്കാം. Okay.
And we are now having PC, web to cell phones and the multimedia tablets, etc. And if you look at where all the devices are being used, private household, utilities, hotels, social, mining, education, agriculture, health, public administration, transport, construction, in all areas where we work, devices are being used. Just remember that now there is a big problem with the automotive device industry, so the non-availability of the chips with the TSMC and Samsung because of the COVID issue. And if you look at the semiconductor forecast, in 2016, IoT devices, Internet of Things, 16 billion, which may go to $62 billion. Automotive may double, 51 billion. 5G, in 2016, there was no 5G. Network devices and 20 billion we may go in 2022. Augmented reality, virtual reality, again go much higher. We are now in this phase because the machine learning, all these are coming here. Artificial intelligence, another 50 billion. So the semiconductor forecast for the next decade is much higher, and now itself we are facing the problem because of the lack of devices availability in the TSMC with the manufacturers, whether it is Samsung or TSMC or any other manufacturer. Now I show you a different aspect, different thing. This is the fab, inside a fab where the devices are being manufactured. Fab has got an entirely different psychology. Fab is a multidisciplinary conglomerate. Physics, chemistry, mathematics, economics, commerce, engineering, electrical, civil and mechanical, etc. Ecology and big fabs like TSMC has got psychologists and physiology, etc. people, and every aspect of science and engineering. Its impact on the human physiology. This is a very, very good area for research where it's a combined multi-topic interrelated research, extended research outside the conventional program, which may. So if you look at the thing, how to move this up. Okay. Here, if you look, see, 1981 IBM PC, I talk here 2010 media tablets. So all these new ones, Apple Macintosh in 84, multimedia PC 91, DVD player. Now there is no DVD player as such event. SD TV, 3G cell phone with camera, 2000 camera, modern smartphone in 2007 and 2010, the media tablet. So this is another 30 years. Here you remember, from concept to reality, one device took 30 years, 32 years. Here, within this 30 years, so many gadgets came. Not only those gadgets, we have other things of application. Microsoft, World Wide Web, Google, e-commerce, Android, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, all these 30 coming up here 40 years. And again, we have got in a short period our present day all the smart systems, smart area, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, all from 2003 to 2012 developed. So this is another very short period. This all came, and this all influence the present day everyone, include old the life members. It influence, and this is the influence. I will come to the next stage. And now where we are going, artificial intelligence, cloud computing is already there, augmented reality, virtual reality, and IoT. Already these are here, but it is not influenced us that much as these three, but it will come to that phase. If it comes to that phase, what our country can do, I just show from information, India and the rest of the world, the technology research overview. This is from the scientific research 1920 data from the National Science Foundation. India ranks third in the world in terms of research. First is China, then US, and then India. Share of scientific publication, China is 20%, US is 16.54%, India is 5.31%. Yes, then China. Growth of research again, India is 11%, world average is 44% only. India ranks number one in terms of the dollar spent per research paper published. So with the less amount of money, we publish more papers. So India ranks number one. In nanotechnology area, India ranks number 3 in the world. So we are in the top. But why we are not like China, US, or any other European country? The reason is what we need to focus is on impact and translation of this knowledge into wealth. We are not doing that. We have good knowledge. That knowledge is confined to some places. We are not transforming it into wealth. We do not have a culture of entrepreneur development. We may be doing it now, starting it now, but it would have been done much earlier. Look at interesting another fact. Our contributions in information technology, India's export in 2019 is US dollar 137 billion. This is more than the Saudi Arabia's crude oil export in that particular year. They exported only 133.6 billion US worth of crude oil. So India's IT export is higher than the oil export by the Saudi Arabia. In biotechnology area, India is the largest provider of generic drugs and 50% of the vaccines. We know it now, especially in the corona days. 40% of the drugs in US and 25% of the drugs in UK are from India. In the technology area, I already mentioned, third in the world as knowledge generation center. But translation into innovative enterprises and wealth is a need of now. We are in the third, but we are not transferring it into innovative enterprises or to develop new things. In the cognitive technology, which is artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., India ranks 5th in terms of the publications and the field. Now more focused in computer science, because now this is only focused in computer science, whereas the application of this comes in every aspect of the life. So we need to diversify. And in quantum technology, we have strong basics. We need to develop that further. So if you look at the 5 technology areas, which is now the booming and coming up, India is on the top. We are utilizing it as such. Now I come back to some interesting fact into the human thinking process. We found 1960 the MOSFET, and it is 60 years now. At that time it was 20 micron. Now it is maybe 10 nanometer. So 60 years we reduce the dimension 10 to the power minus 3. But a silicon atom is 3.13 angstroms. 10 nanometer gate is 32 silicon atoms in a row. If 10 billion transistors of 10 nanometer, that is equal to 320 plus billion silicon atoms at the gate itself. So 320 plus billion. This has got a comparison to our brain. This is a silicon lattice structure. This is my thought process direction, where its lattice constant is 5.43 and silicon atom size is 3.13. Just compare this with one. This is the digital illustration of neuron in the brain. So the neuron cells is something very similar to the silicon single crystal lattice. And if you look at the dimension, human brain has about 100 billion neurons. Of course, we have 100 billion neurons, but when we are active, maybe 60% of it or 70% of it only being used, even less sometimes. Whereas a 10 nanometer gate integrated circuit with 10 billion transistors work. So if you compare this, the human brain interaction with the artificial use with the use of the transistor, there is a comparison. And if there is a comparison, let us look at what the technology has done to the entire humanity, how effectively technology is being utilized. Technology advancements means progress. Advancements in the living condition, in the environment. Advance in living means environment has to improve. Empathy towards the fellow being has to improve. Expansion of knowledge, all E. Equity in living, excellence. If all these are, then let us think back. Technology progress has made advancements in the living, whether the environment has improved, physical environment, improved, or nature got destroyed, the environment got destroyed. Do we have the empathy towards the fellow beings as we means we all in the humanity, the present day younger generation, to all? We have got the empathy towards the fellow beings as we had earlier. Do we really expand the knowledge, or are we focusing it to certain areas only? We are specializing more, we are not expanding. What about living? Do we have it? Just think about it. So, say when you have this or we have got a variation in this, then excellence is not that much. So, are we really over this? It's a question. So, it also led us, human beings, in dwindling the power of observation and awareness. Our capability of observation, our capability of awareness of things, surroundings, nature, everything, it is dwindling. We can see people with the mobile phone at one hand here and just walking, just to observe. They know rules. And they are not at all aware about what is happening outside. That makes many problems. So the dwindling of the power of observation. So we are gradually altering from a social being to an individual. This is the technology advancements result. And our social responsibility is reducing. We are becoming more selfish. So if we say that technology advancements is a progress, then we should have everything of this in a good spirit. But if you look back, we are not there. The resultant is that we are reducing, dwindling in our power. We are actually our capacity to use the brain and the awareness using our senses, we are reducing. We are gradually changing from a social being to a simple mere individual, and social responsibility is good. That is where Stephen Hawking said the singularity exploding in a destructive manner for our species. Stephen Hawking, who passed away 2-3 years back, mentioned this. We are going to explode it in a destructive manner. Not only Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein mentioned, quote, "I'm afraid technology will restrict and finally overcome the human interactions. That will be the time when the humans become mere fools." Just about the present, our human interaction has already reduced and restricted. And interestingly, this COVID and whatever it is also the resultant of our technology development. And the humans, as Albert Einstein mentioned, are becoming mere fools. Exactly what we need is what Bertrand Russell said. Knowledge is power, but it is power for evil just as much as for good. It follows that unless man increase in wisdom as in knowledge, increase of knowledge will be increase of sorrow. We are only increasing the knowledge. We are not using it wisely. We need to use it wisely. We have to have the wisdom to use the knowledge in the real sense. Otherwise, it will be an increase in the sorrow. So, let us look at a scenario. You know, this is interesting. This I took from the US a fireball of a second generation atom bomb, 0.006 seconds after the explosion. So just exploding 0.006 seconds. You can see this one. I compare this with an explosion which we did the research in 2000 on a fireball in a polycide gate in a transistor in an IC using the ESD, electrostatic discharge. This shape resembles this shape. This tails resembles this tails. Look, this means in nature has its own gain in the macro sense as well as in the micro sense. The ESD burnout is a natural event which happened inside the chip, inside the gate, and it showed the same result as of the atomic bomb explosion. So nature has its own gain, and we never realize that. So this is a comparison. And let us go further. We know this guy, mosquito. This person has got a sensor. What happens if I enter a room where only one mosquito is there, and that mosquito, that fellow will find me? I cannot see that fellow. It uses its sensor We do not know whether it's humidity or carbon dioxide, whatever sensor it is. With the sensor, it comes, it flies to us. It has got a brain which is ultra small volume, small number of neuron cells. It uses extremely low power. It comes to you with a sense, not in direct. It will never, the mosquito will never fly in direct. That only, not only the mosquitoes, the dragonfly, all these, they go inside. So it has got a real-time image processing and artificial intelligence 3D flight control system. So it comes to you. You cannot catch it directly because it has got a different flight path. So if you look at this, and if you look at our capability, our human capability, the system is minute and energy efficient for this fellow. Algorithm is powerful and versatile. Both are important. Still, we the humans are far. We don't have that particular type of sensing. We have a big brain, but we cannot use it in that way. And we don't have that real-time imaging. We don't have 3D flight control. So we are far away that compared to a mosquito. That is what we need to know when we learn all this. So thank you, and Jai Hind. Yes, sir. Hello. I need to exit.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
We can hear you. That was a wonderful talk, most revealing, very informative. Took us to many unknown areas, starting from J.C. Bose, the father of the solid-state diode. So many things you told were new to us today, and it actually expanded our knowledge horizon to a wider level. I have one question, sir. Your profile says.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hear you, yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know whether you can hear me. Okay. That's fine. Okay, please.
I was wondering your profile. You have gone through many tracks. You're a teacher, a professor, academic, and you're a researcher. You're an industry entrepreneur man. You're a writer, editor, speaker. You're a consultant. So all these tracks, how you try to manage or synchronize, and how they are bridged actually, these different profiles. And
Good question.
it's quite interesting that
happened in its own way.
so many areas one is able to put your mark. So this is really amazing. And we'd like to know how you keep.
Thank you for that comment. Actually, I tell you how it is. It happened in its own way, because I never stay in one place for anything. So if I find a new area, I go, and I will try to do whatever I can. Any expectation, without any expectation in real sense. But only thing which I would like to have is punctuality. So if probably those who communicated with me know, if anybody sent a message to me, I tell all my my professional colleagues around the globe. In fact, I have many friends from all part of the world, from South America to Europe to everywhere. So they, if they send a message to me, I will reply in 48 hours, less than that. If I don't write a reply, I say I didn't see that message. I request them to send it again. So I do that punctuality and time. So that is one thing which I think I could manage. And then the interest. It is interesting to observing. So it is like that. It just happened.
The IEEE, we have a consultant network affinity group in Kerala also, and
Yeah.
we are interested to know. Our chairman is here, Professor V.K. Damodaran sir is here.
Yeah.
He will supplement. My question is that how the knowledge can be channelized through the consultancy network. What should be the strategy or roadmap? How you should try to become a consultant from a practicing engineer. So what's the difference with the consultancy and the practice? So in the consultancy, what ingredients you add to make it a more serviceable or productive area?
I can try to answer from my experience. Whether you are because whether you are an engineer or a scientist or a physicist or whatever it is, you are having the academic knowledge. From that academic knowledge, we are going to the practical way. What we need to is to solve the problem in the practical way. One thing I thought I should share is basically I am a failure analyst. My job is a failure analysis of devices. So I learned from failure analysis. So I share that information to many people. As a consultant, I work with industries, including TSMC. Intel is my customer. TSMC is my customer. Toshiba is my customer. So with all these people, very small way, certain areas where I share my experience and I learn from them. So it is a give and take way. And by that give and take policy, we get certain things which we share with other people. So there are a lot of community groups, especially nowadays. We have got this LinkedIn. In the LinkedIn community, so much discussion on different areas are going. And all those parties do this without any monetary benefit. Never think about any monetary benefit. If you think about monetary benefit, you will not learn. So that's what I understand. So it is an interesting aspect which we do. And being a physicist, all the time, last 35 years, I worked with the electronics engineering department. I was an adjunct professor at National University of Singapore, where they even do not know I am not an electronics engineering department. So there is no difference between engineering, etc. And even the consultancy. I showed a picture of the wafer fab, where all the science aspect and the psychology and all come. We have a group with people, psychologists, doctors, medical doctors, then engineers, physicists, civil engineers who work together. So that is the way we do the consultancy service. So it is
Dr. MKR.
Yeah.
I'm V.K. Damodaran.
Yeah.
I have to really comment very highly about the last part of your talk, where you try to actually scale the number of years and the technological changes that have come and comparing it with nature and conservation of material as well as energy and all those things all rolled into one, and also taking it to a philosophical angle. I think this has not been a kind of a job that has not been done much. And another thing is about India's first that you have actually shown. This is again with people like us who are observing some of these figures as well as some of this information. We have never actually gone deep to that level to find out that there is actually some signals from our own community, intellectual community, that we are rising in a very positive manner. And finally, what Suhair has also pointed out about the relation between in-depth knowledge, consultancy, and combining them for social good. These are actually areas our consultant network, as well as Kurd himself is an architect and a practitioner of what you call the life science, medical knowledge, technology, all combined together, what you call the EMBS or something like that. So there again, all these interactions are there, but unfortunately, even with 39 societies in IEEE, with some of them interdisciplinary, I think we have not yet come to the core. So I would invite you right now on behalf of all other seniors who also happen to be in one way or other consultant, even if not so. I am sure they are all interested in having an analysis of facts in this area and trying to suggest how we should actually kind of channel the research activities, similarly direct the education activities and things like that. We are at crossroads now, and so I think after your whirlwind global travel and work, I think it will be good if you can actually spend another hour soon with the consultant network where we invite all the LMAC people and all the other IEEE members, so that some of the last things that you have said are actually relevant, and many of our young engineers also think that at the apex point, there is no difference between all these subject division. That's also what you have proved for your career and life. So I think we will have a discussion on which we will discuss, and I think Sir Mohandas, who is also present here, KP Mohandas, I think he also wants to speak something about this one. Dr. Mohandas, kindly add something to what I have suggested.
Sir, you have highlighted. Can I speak?
Yeah,
please.
You have highlighted that in India, we are not very much behind in research by way of publications. But you have very personally indicated that the sharing of information is rather meager. Because very often it so happens that I am from an academia, now retired of course, that we don't share our material with others. Because definitely when research material is shared, the utility goes up. Discussion with others. And another fact that we observed in my own different areas, the interaction with industry is very minimal in our country. Because the industry does not take the researchers into confidence and vice versa. So people talk about industry in research, academic interactions so long. From my very beginning of my career as early as 1968, I have done several seminars and all. Nothing serious has been done on this count. So when there is no interaction with the industry and the academia, the academic research becomes just on the paper. And even some of the good work doesn't come into the industry. I would like to get your reflections on these points.
Sir, shall I mention? I heard both Professor VKD and Professor Mohandas. Let me have some points which what to do and where this information, how it works. I have some type of collaborative joint work with some of the top institutions in our country, IISc, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, etc. And there is for example, I tell you, almost every month, there is a group meeting in which we discuss how to, or rather, I only hear they discuss how to improve the scenario. In my observation, what happens to our academia is from the very old time of all our college days or our research days, what we do is our own, our selfish, other I call it selfishness, maybe different. And we keep it, we never share with somebody. And also, if from academia somebody goes to the industry, that is not going to happen. Just look at a case where in the nanoelectronics area, I tell you, there is a group in 2000, about 10-15 years back, nano electronics area development, nano LP. This particular group formed by the government of India somewhere in 2008, 9, 10, requested the first institutions to work with the industry and researchers as well as the any academic person from any college, nano UP. That one is INUP, it is called Indian Nano Users Program. And I was one of the at that time to review the projects. All the institutions, the key institutions were IISc and IIT Bombay. They were the first to start, and they invited people, academic persons as well as industry people, to submit projects in the nano area to the industry, and that will be reviewed within specific time, 21 days or something like that. If it is successful, your project is successful, you don't pay any single rupee. Entire thing is by the government, and you can visit the lab, you can do the work. There is a few crores of rupees they spend in IISc, in IIT Bombay, and there's a labs developed. You can go there, do the research, etc. After the first year and the second year of that one, I was in touch to review some of the projects. Fortunately or unfortunately, not even a single project from Kerala. Not even a single project from Kerala. It was published to all the academic institutions across India, whereas from other states, many. And some of my friends, very senior people, they were asking, Radhakrishnan, why? I said, I do not know, sir, because I am not in the academy. So why? I do not know why. Probably the information is not directly fed. Probably it is lacking. Probably some other reason. But even now, I do not know the present day scenario. I have requested 2-3 institutions where I knew to submit projects. That's not happening. That's one thing. Second is, in my opinion, the attitude from the academic fraternity, especially the professors, in changing the curriculum. I tell you, about 6-7 years back, 8-10 years back, or rather maybe 2012-13, that time I was in the review panel of some of the syllabuses in some universities in our state as well as other states. The textbook for VLSI technology is referring to the 2-micron technology device, whereas every individual is having a 90 nanometer or 65 nanometer type of device, mobile phone in their hand. So I suggested, why can't we change this? So I suggested certain books, suggested certain research, and even suggested a mode of approach to teaching at the postgraduate level, not at the undergraduate. the graduate level and above. It was all well taken, but at the finally when it was implemented, all were taken out. They put the old back the old syllabus. So where is the problem? So next time they requested me to review, I said, sorry, sir, I don't have time. Because why should I say something and why should I be there just to give some inputs, and it is never being even taken for at least for the words meaning. So it is the attitude. So we need to change that attitude mind. So unless we do that, that is not happening. I tell you a simple example from a different country, not even in our continent. A country which is very similar to the Indian scenario. I happen to be there to review certain programs and all that. You understand the faculty, the students, the younger generation wanted to know and approach technological aspects and to implement. So this we need to change. Fortunately, some changes are coming now with the government's, even the educational system is being now renewed. And all this can happen only if in my opinion, the job should not be a permanent job. In 2005, government of Kerala had a educational meet which was organized in Cochin, where I was invited to give a talk on the educational and entrepreneurial development for the state. I mentioned that all the faculty members who are teaching at the higher level, and research, must be sent out from the education institution for minimum 2 or 3 years outside to industry without to pay, and make some project and come back and teach. You know what will happen? Since there is no pay, they will find that is useful, they will work out and otherwise. Since our employment system, once you join an organization, till you retire, you get the salary, so you need not have to work. That attitude has to change. Unless, I'm sorry, I'm very blunt in saying all this. I'm very sorry to say I'm blunt, but unless we do that, we cannot change. Just look at the tenure positions in the Western universities, tenure positions even in the National University of Singapore, where I was an adjunct faculty for about 13 years. Each faculty member is not a permanent position. It's incremental, it's job, it's linked to the performance, it's research output, student feedback, etc. If the student feedback is poor, if the research output is not up to the mark, there is a committee for every area, and you will not get increment. If it is continue for 2 years, you'll be out of the job. So you have good things, and you don't have that. This is my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that is the way it happens. I don't know whether I explained or rather, but we can change. There is a lot of way, but we need to have open mind to discuss. Professor Vikedi, do you have any comment or suggestion on what I mentioned?
No, I think we should actually develop this idea. Of course, it has certain edges the society will not accept immediately. So we should have some method of
Yes, exactly. I agree.
And with that kind of what I should say fitting techniques, we should actually try to somewhat remold the whole idea and see that changes in the direction that I think we all think alike, but there are certain
Yes.
things which are very peculiar to the Kerala community and in general to the
Fortunately,
Indian academic.
I tell you,
There are some bad
fortunately,
things we know.
fortunately, some changes are happening, especially with the young generation.
True. And we should actually add to it as well as try to give some direction so that the change also does not actually fall into something which is again off center from what is required or what is real. So that is where we should actually at this age and maybe LMAG and consultant network, these are actually smaller forums where some sane thinking can actually go and probably we will be able to come out with some acceptable recommendations. So the essence is we should start dialogue and or rather continue to be in communication and more often, and we will try to
I agree.
out something
I
slightly
agree.
different.
And also one more thing is there where we may also need to work is the program like site in our IEEE, the program like humanitarian activities. When we, especially the senior in the sense old people, LMAC type people, interact in these programs with the mindset, the approach of the younger generation, as well as we ourselves may change a little bit. So that may help enhance these developments to a greater height. And we have facilities. Look at the biotechnology. Yes.
Can I add a point?
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, sir. You have very blunt remarks, and I do agree with you because being an academician for more than 45 years, I do have observed most of these things. But very often, because of the higher level institutions like IITs and to a certain extent NITs, there is some interaction with the industry. To a certain extent. And because IIT has a lot of consultancy and all is there, of course, industry is directly coming into it. But the lower level institutions like even state colleges or other colleges, it becomes a little difficult, especially with the proliferation of the engineering colleges. The research has become more or less a tool for career advancement. So the actual, the utility of the research for the community, society is being, becoming little smaller and smaller. And that's one of the reasons, because you are rightly, bluntly put all the things. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
sorry, I put it very bluntly, but I tell you interestingly about that comment. You see, I identify your program, and you look at the colleges which the faculty from the colleges which apply for this program from Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, all know NIT or know IIT, or it's all very, very normal colleges. The faculty applied, and they go out and they do the work. They go different. They were a little bit afraid. They came up. So, but from our side, I felt bad. None of the people applied. So, what to do? It is our requirement. It is the way we live.
Sir, I'm Philip. You are giving a wonderful talk. I was actually thinking slightly different. Can our country be going back to a leading position like we had maybe thousands of years back? Because we are, to my understanding, we are actually following the Western way. In fact, the whole world, the European invasion of the whole world has taken the world to an individualistic level, individual wealth creation than a society's wealth creation. So many of the problems that we see in this world are actually can be attributed to the individual's spotlight and the wealth creation for the individual. In everywhere, if you take the example of the Apple, Steve Jobs, in fact, it also reminds me when Steve Jobs and our software guru, Unix man, died. In fact, none of the media reported about the contributor, the real contributor in technology. They only mentioned about Steve Jobs. So the whole world's attention is towards individuals and individual wealth creation. Whereas we in our country, in our Asian or our Indian system, it was more for society, and it was highly oriented to society's well-being. And that is probably the reason why we could really raise ourselves to a spirituality level. And where, if you can really, from your own talk, I could see that great geniuses like Albert Einstein telling that all these technologies are going to make us fools. Whereas the ancient philosophy has been towards making, towards the creator, going towards the creator. So the whole approach to life and all those things have really gone to a negative side through the European invasion of the whole world, the patent regime and the individual. So is there a possibility to come out of that and then create a space for India's leadership position? Kindly comment.
I just remember the article about J.C. Bose, with whom I started my talk, mentioned.
Yeah.
J.C. Bose was an inventor, a great person. He never wanted to make credit out of any of his inventions. You know why he even patented that particular solid state diode coherer one is only because some of his teachers, or rather even students who really pressed him to do. Otherwise, he said, as you mentioned, these are all for the humanity. And why should we take the patent? Now we are talking about IPR. We wanted to have everything IPR. To me, IPR is not a right approach, because that is a business approach.
Correct.
And that may not be the one which make us work for the progress of the society, because that even if you have got a patent to utilize that, in fact, now the vaccines patent.
Yeah. Yes.
They were sometime back claiming, oh, this patent is with us. After all, the entire humanity is going to suffer, and now patent and the money. This approach, as you rightly mentioned, has come up from a different thought process which evolved from the individualistic wealth generating scenario. We need to change that. But how to? If we do that on a fine morning, by the government decides or somebody decides to do that in a fine morning, it may not be easy or possible. But I agree with you. This is a real thing which we may have to think about and work out.
Okay, sir.
As Professor VKD mentioned, we have to take this conversation to the next level. Now the knowledge is there, and how the knowledge could be transformed to bring more value to benefit to the society, entrepreneurship, consultancy. So we have to move forward. So I suggest that in September, if you can find some time, we can have another session to discuss more into the utility of knowledge and to build a nation, values and things like that, and how you can also find streams for consultations or startups or entrepreneurships, and knowledge shouldn't just be remaining there. It should take different forms. As your life reveals, you have stepped into every area and experienced the differences or the similarities of each of these tracks. We would like to benefit from your experiences also in this directions. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shuhair. I agree. And as Professor VKD mentioned, it should not be a talk, it should be a discussion. We should have everyone there, put a brainstorming session where everyone come up with some ideas, discuss, out and get the juice out of it, and then try to filter it and to see how clear it is and the clarity where it lies, etc. And that is where we can support. Sure, I'll be there to join you all in that group. Okay. Okay.
Bharat,
Is it okay?
I don't know, Korit is not there or, okay. I'm Gopu Kumar. Let me
He's muted.
congratulate
Yeah.
Dr. Radhakrishnan for taking us to a deep dive into the world of solid state physics. In fact, we have traced the history of solid state devices till the modern age, the comparisons of the performances, applications, everything. So it is a very, very interesting talk. In fact, this is a topic which is dreaded by the present day electronic engineering students. They have this paper SSD, which they have coined the name sure supply devices, because the pass percentage is very low for this paper among electronic engineers. Okay, so listening with this thing, the student community will really wonder how such a commanding knowledge you have about this system. And of course, I have an occasion to have some interaction with you in the past while you are in VSSC, setting up the failure analysis lab and all those things. And of course, you are more known for reliability and other things, but your field is so vast and so these things. So thank you for giving us a wonderful talk, and the subsequent discussions itself so interesting. So a lot of actions have come out. So we all look forward to further interacting with you. Thank you very much on behalf of all the LMAC members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you personally.
It's a pleasure for me to join.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me to join the group, and thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you all, and thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you all. Okay. With all, let us close the meeting today. And all the LMAC members, we will meet on next Sunday, 5:30 to discuss on this one. And let us see a convenient date so that we can continue this discussion later on. Thank you. Thanks all.